Hello, my name is Holland Timmons, also known as The Connoisseur on my channel, and today we'll be looking at one of my favorite filmmaker collaborations with the Indiana Jones series, starring Harrison Ford, and the collaboration is by Hollywood's two best filmmakers, George Lucas and Steven Spielberg. Um, I guess what I liked about Indiana Jones growing up is that subconsciously I could connect with it the same because I was a Karl Barks fan, the same way that Steven Spielberg and George Lucas were Karl Barks fans. If you don't know Karl Barks, I would suggest you totally look him up and check out his comics. Um, he does Donald Duck Adventures and Uncle Scrooge Adventures and Walt Disney's comics and stories. And really, his comics are like each issue is, well, at least the adventure issues are like an Indiana Jones story unto themselves. And I'd say that this story is reminiscent of Indiana Jones would be, I'd say Uncle Scrooge, Willie Scott would be Glittering Goldie, the nightclub singer, and Short Round would be a Huey, Dewey, Louie type character. Interestingly enough, Indiana, Short Round, and Willie Scott are the names of the dogs of the main writers and, well, it's the name of the dogs of the writers and creators and stuff. It's an interesting little fact. Um, the movie starts out at Club Obi-Wan with a song and dance number, and yeah, there's this deal for these remains of this emperor, and Indiana Jones brings the remains in exchange for a diamond. And if you have been paying attention to my channel reviews, this diamond is actually from Treasure of the Peacock's Eye. They tie it into that, so that's interesting. Indiana Jones makes his escape, and he escapes from Lao She, and he ends up going on Lao She Airlines, courtesy of Dan Aykroyd. Of course, he'd screw things up for Indy. Anyway, so they go into India. They have to make an escape from an airplane that's crashing, and they get out thanks to a inflatable raft, and they get off the plane onto the mountain. And then another implausible escape for Indiana Jones, and they go down off the mountain cliff into the river, and yeah, they wind up in this town in India that is starving. They had one of the Shankara stones, and Indiana Jones pieces together that essentially this Thuggee cult has returned at the Emperor's palace, and they stole the children, and he goes to the Emperor's palace with Willie Scott and Short Round to find out why. Yeah. Anyway, this is a really dark movie. There's people with their hearts being ripped out and being sacrificed to Kali by this Thuggee death cult. And the crazy thing is, I thought the Thuggee were an invention of this movie. No, actually, the Thuggee were quite accurately represented in this movie. More accurately than most places you would find the Thuggee represented. Let's just say, I'm not saying the heart would catch fire as in those Black Magic, but the Thuggee would go around and actually rip people's hearts out, sacrifice their bodies to Kali and wear these red sashes. So a lot of it actually was true, and that's where we get the word thug from, is Thuggee. and I thought that was very interesting once I learned that. Um, Indiana Jones tries to get the other Shankara stones. He's captured. He finds out that, they did in fact steal the children and they're using the children as slaves, which actually pisses off Indiana Jones quite thoroughly. Since if you watched Volume 1, the early years, in the very first movie, he was nearly sold as a child slave himself, so yeah, that gives his character extra motivation. Um, anyway, so it's up to the ingenuity of Short Round to save Indiana Jones and Willie Scott from fates worse than death. And he actually does show a bit of Huey, Dewey, and Louie in himself in his ingenious escape. And such a great team up between Short Round and Indiana Jones. It's a bit like Batman and Robin, but definitely adult and kid sidekick kind of thing. It's a great relationship, definitely a father-son type relationship. Yeah, then there's like this battle, Indiana Jones frees the kids, and, well, you probably know the story. But what can I talk about? This is a very well-made film, very dark. In fact, it's my third favorite Indiana Jones film because of its darkness. Still a great film. People say that, this is a racist film because, the bad guys were the thuggy, and let's just say the thuggy were real bad guys. They were really bad. So the fact Indiana Jones fights them instead of Nazis doesn't automatically make it racist. There are different bad guys around the world for Indiana Jones to fight, trust me. And not all of them have to be white. Anyway, getting back to my review. Yeah, so as you can see, right here is the famous bridge sequence. That's a great sequence, definitely right out of the old movie serials that this is also based off of. It's not just based off of Duck Comics, also the old movie serials, which is quite cool. Yeah, so what would I give this movie? I'd give it a 10 out of 10. I know it's dark, but it's aged remarkably well, and I really like this movie. I think it's a really well-made movie, and yeah, I would totally recommend it to anyone like age 8 or up. Probably a little intense for an 8-year-old, but it's still quite good. So I would say around age 8 and up would be the perfect time to introduce them to Temple of Doom. Main bad guy's name is Molaron. Thought I'd add that because he's a very memorable bad guy. Yeah, so if you haven't, I'd totally recommend checking out Indiana Jones: The Temple of Doom. I can't remember if I rated it or not, but if I had to give it a rating, I'd give it a perfect 10 out of 10. It is a classic of cinema. And again, there's a reason why this is my favorite collaboration between filmmakers. The two best filmmakers of Hollywood, actually. And while this is my third favorite, it's definitely not my least favorite. That would probably go to my first adventure, sorry, Corey Carrier. But it just wasn't that impressive. But Harrison Ford's Indiana Jones is the bomb. Alright, take it easy. This is the Connoisseur